Yeah, sipxio's money wasn't wasted, guys, and yes, I do read the comments. I might not react all that much, but I do see them all. And yes, I saw you too, Laine Silagsazon. Indeed, we're going to be making this into a video series. I do need to remind people out the gate that using a super thanks doesn't guarantee a video gets produced, but it does help your chances of us seeing it and makes us consider it a bit more. If it has potential, we'll put it in the holster. That being said, this video has insane amounts of potential, and I can hardly wait to get into it, so let's do just that. Welcome to the Amagi. Before we begin, only 25% of our viewers are subscribed, so if you're a fan of the video, please like and double check if you are subscribed, and with that out of the way, let's get into the video. Down the road, a single man walked. Racked with guilt, his sins bore weight upon his shoulders as a burden unseen to all. The weight thereof was the weight of an entire village, and the weight was to be carried by the arm no longer attached to his body. In his one eye was his eternally burning Sharingan, a token of love, hate, and turmoil that made him the man he was. In the other was the Rinnegan, symbolically representing the moment he became something new, something better. The eye of the sage, a man known for wisdom, and wisdom this eye demanded of its user, lest they fall to insanity. Sasuke had walked his path for so many years. The path his now worn and broken sandals left behind footprints in the dust and mud, each step filled with bittersweet memories, happiness, sorrow, regret, and finally the ability to let go of what others had done to him, and to focus on what he had done to others. He was a monster, a villain, a demon, and yet one man said, "my brother," and another said, "my student," and yet one woman said, "my lover." The village that had wronged him, and he who had wronged the village stood at an impasse. Grace poured down upon both as they recognized their faults. The village had done evil to Sasuke, and he was right to be angry. Sasuke had done evil to the village, and it was right to exile him. But as the Fourth Shinobi World War ended, the powers that be declared that the old village hidden in the leaves should itself turn over a new leaf, and begin again. And now Sasuke was walking a path of reconciliation, earnestly seeking to sow peace and love by working with the village, sacrificing his conscience to protect it, learning to smile to help others. Sasuke's path was a path born of a man who had thought only of himself, but now he was walking the path of thinking only about others. He had recently met a postman who was sending a certain letter to a P.O. box with his name on it. Sparing the man his long journey, Sasuke took the letter and now sat by the fire reading it. "My dearest Sasuke, to you I send my deepest love. I hope this letter finds you well in your journeys of self-discovery. I am ever proud of you, my husband, for your attempts to find your place in this new world, but soon your place may become obvious. I have news for you. Today I felt strange, so I went to see Tsunade to talk about it. She performed a very particular test on me and the results came back. I'm pregnant with our first child. I'm both excited and terrified all the same. I've always wanted to be a mother, but deep down I worry that I do not have the proper instincts. But somehow I know you'll be perfect. Your experience and resolve has proven you to be a stable and strong man, whose heart has always been filled with love. Though it may have once been misguided, sometimes even hatred can be a facet of love, or proof of it at the very least. I am glad to have a man with such a big heart, and hope to see you soon. With love, forever yours, Sakura Uchiha." Sasuke offered a smile as he read the letter. A moment later, he realized he wasn't alone. A man stood before him wearing a hood. Below that hood was an unusual complexion, a hue to the skin unnatural among the known races in this world. A strange energy was put off from him, a darkness, but also a feeling of near divinity, as if he were staring at some dark god, perhaps the same as Kaguya. On his guard, he made no sudden movements. The man's smile was all that could be seen. He sat down by the campfire with him. "It's a brisk night tonight, am I right?" he said with a bit of a peppy tone. "Who are you?" Sasuke asked. "Oh, just a nobody who knows every detail of your life and has watched it on reruns, making alterations and switching some things around." Sasuke's eyes narrowed as his Mangekyo prepared to cast Amaterasu at a moment's notice. "What do you want with me?" The man laughed. "Want with you? No, the question is what do you want with me? I can tell you bear the weight of your past mistakes, your regrets, but what if I told you that you didn't have to?" Sasuke listened. The mysterious man continued. "Imagine I could let you go back and change the things you don't like about your life, restart from the beginning and change the way things work out." "I don't believe you," Sasuke said bluntly. The man gasped, as if offended somehow. How very dare you? Don't you know who I am? Sasuke shook his head. That's the point. I don't know who you are, and even if you could do something like this, what do you have to gain from it? Entertainment, knowledge. I seek the possibilities. I wish to know what makes this world tick. I want to see what happens. That's simply it. Somehow, I doubt that. You don't trust me? The man asked. Why should I trust you? You've given me no reason to. I suggest you leave my camp now. The man smiled. You're going to do this. Trust me. Sasuke scoffed. You claim to know me, but you don't know me well enough. I'm happy here. I won't change my mind on this. The man laughed. Oh, that is funny. You thought I was asking a question. Sasuke's eyes widened as he suddenly cast a Amaterasu. Before it hit though, the man raised a particular blade. When he did, he split the Amaterasu down the middle. Sasuke was confused. Impossible. Silly Billy, I didn't actually cut the Amaterasu, I cut the space where the Amaterasu existed. My blade didn't even touch the fire. Space-time ninjutsu, Sasuke questioned. The man reached out and touched Sasuke. Oh, trust me, it is so much more than that. Suddenly, Sasuke felt as if he was dragged back, like he were tied to the back of an ATV, being dragged through space and time until darkness enveloped him. Suddenly, he awakened and gasped. Laying there, he found himself in his bed. Had he been sleeping? Was all of that just a dream? He raised his hands and rubbed his eyes, helping them open more easily without discomfort. That's when he noticed. Wait, since when do I have two hands? He looked them over and noticed just how small they seemed. He sat up in bed and looked down at himself. He couldn't have been that old. Maybe 6, perhaps a little older? It was strange. His new reality was starting to set in, though his previous reality, though dreamlike, seemed so vivid. Getting out of bed, he made his way to the bathroom where he began to clean off his face. That was when he looked into the mirror and noted that he still had a Rinnegan. He was shocked. Then it all started to hit him. He remembered the guy from earlier, that strange purple-skinned fellow, and he realized the truth. He'd been thrown back in time. He was starting his life all over again. In anger, he punched the mirror. Pulling his bloody hand back, shards of glass still embedded in his knuckles, he began to grow frustrated. He'd been happy. All the progress he had made was now gone. His love, his life, his soon-to-be baby girl, all of it stolen. Yet a few things remained. Knowledge of his previous world, as well as his dojutsu. He heard rustling behind him. Sasuke! Sasuke remembered that he couldn't deactivate his Rinnegan. He was unsure if anyone knew about it in this timeline, so he covered it with his hair just to be certain. Coming around the corner was Mikoto. Sasuke saw her and his mouth opened in awe. His emotions and his system were shocked. It had been so many years since he'd last seen his mother alive. She looked at the mirror and gasped. Sasuke, what did you do? She began to inspect the glass. This is gonna cost a small fortune to fix. Mikoto seemed so angry about this until she noticed a little blood in between the cracks of the glass. She looked over at Sasuke, her expression softening. She knelt down and put out her hand. Show me. Sasuke raised his hand to show her. She noticed it. As she examined it, the bleeding was slowing, but the glass was still embedded. Sasuke, what is wrong with you today? She asked in a rhetorical way. Opening the mirror further, some more glass fell as she got out the first aid kit. Pulling up the tweezers, she began to remove as many shards as she could from his knuckles before cleaning his hand with alcohol and bandaging it. Sasuke didn't even wince at the pain. He just watched. Are you okay? Is something wrong? Mikoto asked. This time, she really just wanted to know why he had totaled her mirror. Sasuke shook his head. Mikoto scoffed. You can keep trying to be stoic, but I know. My eyes might not be Sharingan like your father's, but that doesn't mean they can't see things. They can see into your very soul, Sasuke. I know something's up. Won't you tell me? Sasuke remained silent. Mikoto pursed her lips in disappointment before smiling in resignation. Okay, don't tell me then. Just know if you ever need to talk about it, I'm here. She then began to leave. As she turned the corner, she called back. Also, please don't destroy any more fixtures. Sasuke would look back into the mirror and think about everything he'd just experienced. He'd begin to make his way downstairs and sit at the table where a peanut butter and jelly sandwich was presented to him. It used to be one of his favorites. It still was, if you can keep a secret. He began to eat it. He looked around. It was possible that he was in a genjutsu, not too unlike the infinite Tsukiyomi. He scanned the area with his Sharingan and then with his Rinnegan. Suddenly, someone came down the stairs. Sasuke quickly deactivated his Sharingan and hid his Rinnegan. Itachi came to the bottom of the stairs and sat at the table to have breakfast before he went to work. Looking over, he saw Sasuke sitting there, along with his new, noticeable hairstyle. He smiled. What, is this a new phase or something? Sasuke let off a small smile. Together they ate until Itachi had to go. You got any ideas how you plan to spend your day, Sasuke? Makoto asked. Must feel nice to get some time off from the academy. Sasuke nodded. I think I'm just gonna relax today, he said. Makoto smiled. Good, you deserve it. Once Sasuke finished his meal, he began to leave the house. He sat there and put his shoes on. Makoto came up behind him, knelt down, and gave him a hug. She kissed his cheek. You sure you really don't want to tell me, Cubby? Sasuke smiled. It's okay, Mom. It really is nothing. I just got frustrated today because of something someone at school said, but I'm not gonna let it bother me anymore. Sorry I broke the mirror. He felt bad lying to her face like that, but honestly, he couldn't just say I time traveled and lost everything I once loved. One, she wouldn't even believe him, and two, even if she did believe him, what would she be able to do? Just be sad too? No, this wasn't something to really play with. Standing up, she let him go. Just promise me you'll be careful, she said. I will, Mom. Sasuke left the compound and made his way down along the river. There was this old dock for fishing that he liked to visit. It helped him think and unwind. Sitting down there, he looked out at the river. He continued to scan the area with his Mangekyo and his Rinnegan. He still believed that there was a possibility that this was all just an illusion, a genjutsu, but as far as he could tell, his chakra hadn't been altered in any way, shape, or form. So perhaps he was truly in the past again. But what did that mean? It meant that he had the opportunity to change things. But considering that this may have been the very thing the cloaked man wanted him to do, Sasuke began to wonder if it was such a good idea. So he resolved that likely he wouldn't be able to change anything. He didn't want to cause a butterfly effect that could alter the way his future played out. That being said, the very fact he was back here at all had likely already altered some things, but alas, if he wanted his old life back, he would need to retake the same steps. Sasuke would hear something behind him and look back, only to see Naruto walking across the levee above. Sasuke saw Naruto smile, and despite knowing he wasn't the nicest to Naruto in the past, he smiled back. Could he really keep things on track? That was the question. The day thereafter, he would go to the academy. While there, he'd spend most of his time ignoring all the baby questions, only answering when he'd been called upon to do so, which was obvious. Most of his day was spent in his own head, or so he thought. He couldn't help but notice he was staring at the back of Sakura's head all day, every day. To some, it would seem creepy, but considering that Sasuke was one of the coolest kids around, he could have any girl he wished. Yet he chose Sakura. Why? Because whether it was the past or future, she had already won his heart. This would be noticed by the other girls though, which would result in Sakura being somewhat bullied and excluded. It made Sakura sad. This was Sasuke's fault, and despite not wanting to change things, his heart was in so much pain watching her sit teary-eyed alone at lunch. It wasn't too different for Naruto though. He also sat teary-eyed and alone at lunch, but for totally different reasons. Sasuke would walk over to Naruto's table. He would sit down for a moment, drawing Naruto's curious attention. Sasuke then looked at Sakura and spoke. I couldn't help but notice you were alone. I know you could use some company, but someone else also needs our company. I was wondering if you'd follow me over to Sakura's table to eat with us. Naruto scoffed. Why? So you can make Sakura feel better? What's in it for me? Sasuke shook his head. If it were only about Sakura, I could sit by her alone. I don't think she really needs anyone but me. I invited you because you also look sad, and I sorta hate that. So why don't you just come on over and we can all be friends? Naruto looked over at Sakura. Frankly, he had a crush on Sakura, and the idea of her being sad made him sad too, so he agreed. Together, Naruto and Sasuke walked over and sat down by Sakura. She looked over at Naruto and smiled once before looking to Sasuke. When she saw him, her entire face lit up. Naruto and Sasuke both hugged her tightly, with Sasuke even sneaking in a kiss on the cheek. He knew this had to be changing the future, but he simply couldn't not let her know that he cared for her. And so they stayed together for a time, even walking Naruto home from school. Naruto's day was better. He walked Sakura home as well. She seemed like she was in hog heaven. The greatest crush of her life was reciprocating. Sasuke smiled and hugged her before letting her go. He too would eventually head home. As he did though, he saw Itachi outside of his house talking with another shinobi. Another Uchiha by the looks of it. Who was it? Coming closer, he stopped and noticed it was Shisui. Oh, they must be... Sasuke thought back on everything he'd learned about Itachi and his past. Father's planning the uprising at this point in time, isn't he? Sasuke drew closer. Itachi and Shisui looked over to see him. They stopped talking and smiled. Oh, hey Sasuke, I didn't see you there. Am I interrupting? Sasuke asked. Itachi shook his head. Nah, me and Shisui were just catching up. Uh-huh. Sasuke nods and then walks through the door. He would then wait for Itachi to enter the building too. As Itachi sat down to take his shoes off though, Sasuke approached from behind. You and Shisui are planning something, aren't you? Itachi looked back. What? Sasuke continued. About the coup. You're planning to find a way to stop it, right? Itachi stopped moving and his face went cold. I don't know what you're talking about. Sasuke sighs. I'm not ignorant of what's going on. I know Hirazen's in on this too. How? Sasuke doesn't answer right away. Just put your shoes back on. Meet me at our training grounds. Sasuke heads out. As he waited, he sat there and wondered if he was making the right decision. He was about to change something big, but the issue was that Oddfellow was right. There were things he wished hadn't happened, and now he could change them. How could he resist? Itachi would eventually show up. He seemed to be in a very dark mood, likely because he was terrified of Sasuke. Sasuke spoke. If you're scared about what I'm going to do with this information, don't be. I plan to help. Itachi laughed a bit, though his nervousness was still present. Sasuke, you can't. You're far too young. Sasuke shakes his head. Itachi, I'm not the same as you probably remember. I'm a different Sasuke. Itachi didn't seem to believe Sasuke, so Sasuke motioned him closer. As Itachi drew in, Sasuke spoke. I'm gonna show you something, but you have to promise to keep it a secret. Itachi nodded. Sasuke pushed his hair to the side, displaying the legendary eye. Is that the Rinnegan? Sasuke nodded. Don't remember me having that, do ya? Itachi shook his head. I can't turn it off, Sasuke said, so I have to hide it. Itachi looked into it. That's certainly new, but how do I know you didn't just awaken it? Sasuke sighs. Then let me show you this. He activated his Mangekyo Sharingan. Look into this eye, Itachi. This is the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Eternal? Itachi wasn't so sure he could believe it, though things were starting to become harder and harder to deny. That's when Sasuke finished his implications. Look deeply into these eyes, Itachi. These are your eyes. Itachi could see himself in them. They truly were. How? Sasuke then spoke. I come from a world where your plan failed. The plan you had set up failed because Danzo Shimura betrayed you and attacked Shisui. He stole his Mangekyo Sharingan that possessed the Konohama Tsukami, and without it you were unable to stop the revolt. Shisui would kill himself, and you'd be forced by Danzo to kill the Uchiha, being told that if you didn't, he would kill you as well as me. You felt so bad that you made me hate you. I spent the better part of my life trying to kill you until eventually I did. And I learned the truth. That's how I got the Mangekyo. But someone approached me and sent me back through time to now. Itachi looked like he still didn't believe Sasuke. Sasuke then spoke again. I know the story seems far-fetched, but tell me if I've said anything that contradicts reality and the personality of Danzo. Itachi couldn't. So what are we supposed to do? Itachi asked. Sasuke answered, we'll protect Shisui with our lives. He's the most important part of our clan, and if you want to work it out, he has to survive. He can't be allowed to wander alone anymore, not without at least one of us being near him. With all due respect, Itachi said, what could you do in the face of Danzo? Sasuke's Rinnegan flared as Itachi was knocked back against a tree. I have many abilities besides that. Trust me, I can handle Danzo. The only trouble he would cause is with his Izanagi. Izanagi? Sasuke began to explain about Danzo and his technique. Itachi understood. This is just a lot to take in, Itachi said. Sasuke stood and walked over to him. Trust me, it's worse for me than it is for you. I was ripped away from my family. I had a wife and a child on the way, and now I'm not sure if I'll ever get to see that baby born. Itachi looked down. I'm sorry about that, Sasuke, but if you're not pranking me, then it sounds like we could save a lot of lives. But we need to fill Shisui in on this too. He needs to be privy to everything we've discussed. Sasuke understood and allowed it. And so Itachi would eventually bring Shisui there, and Sasuke would explain everything to him that he had explained to Itachi. It was a bit harder for Sasuke to convince Shisui of his claims, as he couldn't verify if Itachi had told Sasuke anything from their plan or not. But knowing Itachi, when Itachi told him and to trust Sasuke, Shisui had no reason not to. Knowing that they planned to cast their genjutsu at the next meeting, Sasuke knew that Danzo would attempt to strike before the week had finished, so he skipped the academy that week, Itachi being sure to tell the headmaster that Sasuke was sick. Sasuke and Itachi would keep a close eye on Shisui, and Shisui would stay vigilant for any attack that might be coming. Eventually, on the night of the meeting, as Shisui was headed for the Naka Shrine, he would be attacked. But before Danzo could pluck his eye, Sasuke and Itachi appeared. Itachi would kill the Anbu agents attacking Shisui. As Danzo saw this, he turned around to run away, only to be caught by Sasuke. He saw Sasuke and laughed. He planned to take Sasuke hostage to force Itachi and Shisui to cooperate, but as he drew closer, Sasuke simply held out his hand and pushed Danzo back. Danzo caught himself. What is this? He asked while looking at Sasuke. Itachi would stab him in the back. Watch out for his Izanagi, Sasuke shouted. Itachi would pull back as Danzo disappeared. Thanks for the save, Sasuke. Don't thank me yet, Sasuke said as Danzo reappeared. Be careful, he can use that technique multiple times, thanks to the Sharingan embedded in his arm. Danzo looked back at Sasuke, wondering how he knew such a thing. What do we do then, Itachi asked. Keep killing him until he runs out of Izanagi, Shisui recommended. Sasuke, Itachi, and Shisui pressed the assault, and frankly, considering how powerful the three of them were, Danzo didn't stand much of a chance. When he had run out of his last Izanagi, Shisui would finish him off. Sasuke would then cast a Materasu to dispose of the bodies. Now that we're in the clear, we need to head for the meeting. When we're done there, Shisui needs to cast Kodo Amatsukami. When the deed is done, tell Hiruzen. As for Danzo, nothing happened here today. Danzo disappeared and he'll stay that way. None of us know what happened. Itachi and Shisui nodded. They then headed for the Naka Shrine. When they arrived, Sasuke stayed outside because he technically wasn't even supposed to be there. Shisui looked around at everyone before looking to Itachi. This was everything they'd been planning for quite some time. Itachi gave a nod. Shisui took a deep breath and then activated his Mangekyou Sharingan. He set it to cast the Genjutsu to subtly change the mind of everyone in the room and make them want to serve Konoha. Slowly, the conversation began to fall into discourse as each member grew more and more reluctant toward their own idea and a bit more hopeful about Konoha. This surprised Fugaku. I didn't even know you guys felt this way. Shouldn't we have mentioned this in the beginning before we started planning? When it was all said and done, he dismissed everyone. Everyone except Itachi and Shisui. He called the two to him. After everyone had left, Fugaku turned around. You two did something, didn't you? I don't know what you mean, father, Itachi said. Fugaku scoffed. You two were the most outspoken out of everyone. The fact that everyone changed their minds so suddenly when they were so passionate before, it just doesn't make sense without somehow this being sabotaged. So tell me, what did you use? Bribery? Blackmail? Genjutsu? Their eyes lit up when the word Genjutsu was used. Fugaku looked down and shook his head with a smirk. You boys are sly, but not even you could pull one over on old Wicked Eye. Punish us if you must, father, but we simply cannot let the Uchiha do this. It'll hurt Konoha, and possibly even cause another world war. We don't need this right now. We need to just let things go. Fugaku looked down at them and thought about it, raising the tilt of his head so he could stare down his nose at the two. No punishment will be required. Itachi and Shisui were confused. No punishment, they asked in unison. Fugaku shook his head. Honestly, I'm kinda glad this is over. I didn't really want to cause a stink either. But as clan head, the problems of this clan are my problems too. If they're able to be happy, then I think this is a better outcome. Now you two go on and get out of here, but never let it slip what happened this night, or we'll all have hell to pay. Shisui and Itachi both bowed and left. Coming outside, they ventured to where Sasuke was hiding. Well, Sasuke asked, curious to know what happened. It worked, Shisui said. The only person to notice the Genjutsu was father, said Itachi. But he didn't seem too disappointed and decided to keep our secret. Itachi looked to Shisui. We gotta report this to Hiruzen. Shisui nodded. Can you make it home by yourself? Itachi asked. Sasuke cringed and sighed. Itachi, in mind, I'm currently older than you are. I can get home easily. Itachi hugged Sasuke. Thank you for this. He then began making his way toward the Hokage's office, and Sasuke disappeared into the night where he'd make his way back to their house. After that, things were peaceful. Feeling content with himself, Sasuke would run himself a warm bath and just relax. He deserved it. After his bath, he'd prepare to go down and get something to eat, but was surprised by Makoto. Sasuke's hair wasn't hiding his dojutsu though, so he quickly turned away. Wait, Makoto said as she came around. She was terrified. She didn't know exactly what she saw, but she knew Sasuke's eye was discolored. She was afraid that maybe he'd hurt it. She came around to see Sasuke with one eye closed. What happened to your eye, she asked. I got soap in it. Makoto's face grew serious and threatening. Open it. Still intimidated by his mother, despite his mental age, he obliged. And there Makoto saw it for the first time. Sasuke's Rinnegan. She was amazed. That's the eye of the sage. Sasuke looked away. It is, but you gotta keep it a secret. Makoto shook her head. No, we need to at least tell your father. So she dragged Sasuke downstairs just as Fugaku was getting home. Fugaku, you gotta see this. Fugaku looked down. Mom, stop, Sasuke said with a bit of a drone, hoping to get her to stop it. But she didn't. What is it? Fugaku asked. Makoto pushed Sasuke's hair aside. Fugaku's eyes widened. Hey, is that the... It's the Rinnegan, Makoto said. Fugaku was so happy that he picked Sasuke up and spun him around. He was so proud of his boy. Dad, please stop. We gotta let the village know. Our son is the second sage of 6 paths. Dad, stop, Sasuke shouted. Fugaku stopped and lowered him to the ground. What's wrong, son? Sasuke then spoke. It's very important to me that you keep this a secret. Why? Fugaku asked. Sasuke then spoke. A lot's riding on this. You may not understand it, but I've come from the future. Fugaku seemed skeptical, but when Itachi finally got back, Sasuke called him up as a witness. Together, Sasuke and Itachi began to explain everything that Sasuke had said, and everything Itachi had experienced, even saying that they could talk to Shisui to corroborate. Something Fugaku vowed to do, seeing how incredible their story was. "But if you don't want anyone to know about your Rinnegan, why don't you just shut it off?" "I can't," Sasuke said. "The only thing I can do is activate and deactivate the Tomoe. This Rinnegan is just my base eye now, while my Tomoe represent the Sharingan and Mangekyo Sharingan abilities." Fugaku and Makoto looked to each other and then back. "A lot of things are changing, father. They'll change soon, but I want to try and preserve as much of the past as possible. I'm only changing what I feel I have to. I had to help Shisui and Itachi do their thing because if we hadn't, that would have resulted in Danzo killing every Uchiha." Sasuke specifically omitted the part where they would have made Itachi do it. "But we recently killed Danzo and no one will ever find the body." Fugaku scratched the scruff of his chin. "All right, Sasuke, we'll do as you tell us, but on one condition." "What is it?" Sasuke asked. "You tell us exactly what is on the Uchiha stone tablet." Sasuke begrudgingly agreed. When there, he got to read the text for himself. He then spoke. "It should be known, the point in time where I came from, I actually met the Sage of Six Paths personally. It's how I got my Rinnegan. He told me that this monument was corrupted by the enemy and that its meaning was changed. It was designed to be a warning against achieving the Rinnegan. This warned us against the Ten Tails, but this tablet does the opposite." "What does this tablet say?" Fugaku asked. "It says that the Ten Tails and the Infinite Tsukiyomi are the things that will save the Uchiha." "Wait, Infinite Tsukiyomi?" Sasuke nodded. "Yeah, like the technique Itachi uses, but instead of simply being the Tsukiyomi, one can project it off the moon and affect the whole world. However, this is a trap. The Sage of Six Paths said that the Ten Tails is actually a dangerous and malevolent being that he had to split into 9 different beasts because it was so dangerous. There's a group that will want to start capturing the beasts, and we can't let them do it because if they succeed, the world will end." Fugaku was surprised. "This is just... it's so much to take in." Sasuke nodded. "I know, but regardless, we can't tell anyone else. We have to preserve as much of history as we can, okay?" Fugaku nodded, and so they went home. Days passed, then weeks, months, and years, and Sasuke continued to grow. He became very close with Naruto and Sakura, and due to that, when they finally graduated from the academy, they'd be placed on the same team, together under Kakashi Hatake. This was the beginning of everything, and Sasuke was ready for it. As Sasuke sat there again before Kakashi, the rest of his group were introducing themselves. His entire life had become a massive state of déjà vu, but so much had changed. He thought about the Uchiha clan and how they had survived, about how his father never truly wanted to go along with any of it, about the premature death of Danzo, which so far had left Konoha stumped, the survival of Shisui, and the fact that the truth about the Uchiha stone monument had come to light. By this point in time, Sasuke was wearing an eye patch to cover his eye, having told people that he lost it in an accident. This was enough to convince most. After all, most Uchiha could turn their dojutsu off, so why hide it? There was no reason to doubt his claims. He also did his best to hide his Mangekyo from others, not that they would care if he did. It was just that he liked to play his cards close to his chest, and he was doing the best he could to avoid making a big splash in the timeline, though he assumed it was probably far too late for that. He had also recently informed Itachi that the cough in his chest was more than just a cough, and had sent him specifically to seek out Tsunade under orders from Hiruzen, who would ask his former student to treat Itachi with care. Due to this, Itachi was in remission of his illness, with a close eye being kept on it. The outlook was good. Sasuke had always known that it would be a futile effort trying to keep the timeline the same, and that by him simply having this knowledge and ability at all, it would cause a butterfly effect. He had come into this believing that they shouldn't be messing with anything at all. After all, he and Naruto had already made a happy ending, but despite the fact of what he believed and what he'd hoped to do, it was obvious already that some things were changing. And perhaps it was still the untamed youth in his heart, something that perhaps one day he'd grow out of, but he couldn't help but be tempted. His temptation was to have his cake and eat it too, a terrifying temptation. But he knew that if he and Naruto stuck close, if Naruto continued to make strides in his growth, and Sasuke continued to grow stronger himself, that nothing could stand in their way. First things first, Sasuke needed to find a way to deal with the known threats of the village. He needed to deal with the Akatsuki. He was only considering the way he would do so. And what of Orochimaru? Orochimaru was complicated. Having been killed, but having also had a new lease on life established, Orochimaru had somewhat mellowed out over the years, even becoming somewhat friendly to Konoha. But that was a long journey, to get from point A to point F, stopping at all the letters in between. He wondered if there was a way to preserve Orochimaru's change of heart, or if that was too big of an ask. As Sasuke pondered these things, he heard someone call his name. Sasuke. Sasuke looked over to see the entire group staring at him. Kakashi then spoke again. Are you going to introduce yourself to us? Sasuke looked around. Why? You already know my name. Kakashi rubbed his face. Yes, but we need more than that. Sasuke smiled at the thought. And what if I decided that my likes and dislikes, my dreams and desires were none of your business? Kakashi looked over at him. There seemed to be a certain pleased look upon his face, hidden by his gaiter. I guess I can't argue with that, Kakashi said. That would have been Kakashi's answer as well, and Sasuke knew it. So what, we're just not gonna get to know what Sasuke's goals are, Naruto asked? Kakashi shrugged. Can't exactly force him to give that information up. Besides, it's a good thing for shinobi to play their cards close to their chest. Divulge as little information about yourself as possible. Keeps the enemy guessing. And what about your friends? Sakura asked. Kakashi looked over to her. The steady leakage of information insinuates that the most important things about you can't be hidden from your allies for long. You may not know much of his personal life, but who he is as a member of your team is what's most important, and you'll discover that soon enough. Kakashi pushed away from the railing. Come with me. As they walked, Sasuke knew exactly what it was that Kakashi was going to do, but he played along. Getting out to the woods, Kakashi would explain what he was going to do next, but wouldn't divulge the entirety of the plan. Sasuke, of course, already knew, but that being said, he wanted to safeguard the growth of Naruto, so for that reason he wouldn't give away Kakashi's secret. At this point, Sasuke had everything he was required to have to get the bells on his own, but he knew that this wasn't about him. This was about Naruto and Sakura. They needed to learn the lesson, and he couldn't just tell them the answers. He knew their potential. He needed them to see it as well. So he tried to do the same as before, but old habits die hard. Sasuke had grown so accustomed to his vigilance that it was more trouble nerfing himself than it would have been to defeat Kakashi. And to a point, Kakashi noticed this. Imagine for a moment that you are Kakashi, and the Genin Sasuke stands before you. The moment you launch a secret attack that even higher level Jonin wouldn't attack, Sasuke flinches, but then doesn't move to get out of the way, only taking the shot, but somehow doing so in such a way that he takes the minimal amount of damage. What would you think? Kakashi knows that Sasuke is secretly suppressing his potential to help the others keep up. He doesn't speak on it though. Not yet. He lets things play out, and as he does, Naruto continues trying to get the bells. But after enough humiliation, he begins to lose faith in their ability to pass the test, and decides to eat the lunches all by himself. This gets him caught quickly by Kakashi. This results in Team 7 being allowed a lunch break. All except Naruto. Kakashi had told them that he would automatically fail them if they tried to feed Naruto. He then left them to their own devices. Naruto sat there, his tummy rumbling. Sasuke walked over to the monument in their vision. He started reading the names off of the monument. He then looked back at Naruto. Do you know what this is? Why these names are here? These are the names of the shinobi who paid the ultimate price for their village. They're true heroes and should never be forgotten. Do you not understand the meaning of this test? Naruto scoffed. If you do, then tell me. Sasuke walked over and knelt down in front of Naruto. Sacrifice. Sacrifice and teamwork. It's an exercise in selflessness. It's an exercise meant to help us detach from our own good and focus on the greater good. There are 2 bells, which means only 2 can pass. One of us will fail, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't try to help our team. Even if one of us goes home, for the good of the whole team, we should all try, because being a good shinobi isn't always about your skill, but about your heart. Doing what is right and being willing to do what's best for the village and for your team, regardless of the consequences. Allow me to show you what I mean. Sasuke pulled out his bento box and opened it up, displaying the rice within. Naruto, even though you tried to steal this from me, and even though I know that getting caught will cause me to fail, I'm going to feed you. Because in the end, it's you who matters, not me. He begins to feed Naruto, all the while Sakura is fawning over his wisdom and pure heart. Sakura can't help but join in. In the distance, Kakashi was startled by how much Sasuke truly knew about this. Kakashi would exit the woods and stand over them. You guys know this means you both fail, right? Sasuke didn't even look back at him. He just kept feeding Naruto, responding only with a nod. Why would you do that? Kakashi asked. Because a team is a single unit. If Naruto's weak, then we're all weak. And if one of us must sacrifice ourselves so the team can succeed, then it has to happen. Doesn't change our objectives in the least. Kakashi put his hands on Sasuke and Sakura's shoulders. I've been waiting for a team who could understand the meaning of this test, and I think I've finally found it. From there, Sasuke, Naruto, and Sakura became members of Team 7 under Kakashi Hatake. They would celebrate and return to their homes. Sasuke would sit down in a chair at the desk. He would pull out a journal and a pencil. He began to write all of the events of the day down in the form of a letter, as if he were addressing it to someone else. As he flipped through the pages to the front, he stopped and looked at the opening page. There was a delicately drawn image of Sakura there, straight from his memory, the face he saw in his dreams every night. And though he knew Sakura in this world, knowing it was the same Sakura, just having a different experience of the past, he couldn't help but think back to the Sakura he knew. It felt different, and deep down, that made him sad. As he looked the image over, he recalled the letter she had sent to him about their firstborn. Despite the fact that his expression hadn't changed, tears began to roll down his cheeks. The hooded figure who had met with Sasuke before had long since discarded his cloak. The lavender skin and white hair, the crimson eyes hidden behind yellow-tinted glasses, Fu watched. Not a smile on his face at all, not even a word passing from his mouth. He had never really watched Sasuke cry before. He had, but only in times of great heartache and pain. That was the only time that Sasuke ever seemed to cry, from loss. The loss of something precious to him. And now, as he watched Sasuke crying, he could only wonder about the pain. Perhaps deep down there was a conscience hiding under all of that mad scientist that had been heaped upon his heart. He thought about it deeply as he did. Sasuke fell asleep by that journal. Only an open window and a gust of wind seemed to change. It was enough of a change to wake him up. When he did, he looked at something that had been placed into his hand. It was a picture. A picture of an older Sasuke standing hugged against an older Sakura, like the one he knew, yet they seemed older than Sasuke had remembered. In front of them was a young, black-haired little girl, a perfect fusion of Sasuke and Sakura. It was their baby, the little girl. The back of the picture said Sasuke, Sakura, and Sarada on it. Sasuke's expression broke a little as the tears overflowed. A smile scrawled across his lips. He placed the picture into the journal and pulled the book into a hug. On a distant roof, Fu watched with a solemn smile. "Keep soldiering on, champ. Everything'll turn out right if you keep trying. I believe in you." And a moment later, Fu was gone. The day after, they continued doing their thing. All they really could do at this moment was regular chore-level missions. That's all that was allowed for a genin. It was just the way of the system. Sasuke had long since become a bit of a stoic since his return to Konoha. Instead of worrying about things that could upset him, he let them roll off his back and learned to be content with what he had. And right now, he had friends, and he had peace. It gave him enough time to mull over the future and better decide what to do. The location of the Akatsuki might not be as easy to locate now. Time had changed enough. But what was still important was making sure Naruto reached his full strength. He would be needed in the future, but how would he do that? What could give Naruto the motivation to grow stronger? That was the question indeed. Eventually, Naruto's need to prove himself results in them being granted the Land of Waves mission, in which they'd be sent to escort Tazuna to the bridge in the village of the same name as the mission title. On their way, they encountered the Demon Brothers. Now, Sasuke knew they were there before even the Demon Brothers knew they were there, but that didn't change his reaction to them, nor did it change to his reaction to the first appearance of Zabuza. Sasuke just pushed to keep everything the same. He personally defeated the Demon Brothers, and then he used Naruto's feint to free Kakashi. He watched Haku take Zabuza's body away, knowing that Zabuza was still alive. This began to call into question the implications of letting people die when he could stop it. The implications of killing people who could be saved when he could stop it. It was true that he could change the future, and to a point he already had. As Sasuke rested at the home of Tazuna, allowing Kakashi to regather his strength, all he could do was think about that. As Sasuke sat there, he knew his mind was wandering into the domain of God, and that no man could truly carry the weight of the future, past, and present without divine assistance. And that being said, that purple-skinned fellow didn't seem to be quite divine. So Sasuke came up with a better plan. He would continue to live his life here, and would do what he thought was best when the time came. It was then that Kakashi told them that they would not be spending this downtime sitting on their keisters. Nope, they were going to have to train, and train well they would. All except for Sasuke, who already knew the lesson Kakashi was attempting to teach him. But to that end, he continued to fail, and the more he failed, the more Kakashi noticed he was faking. As the night continued, Sasuke would eventually feel like he'd been training quite long enough, and so he made it to the top of the tree, displaying false effort in completing the task. He would return to the home where he'd spend the rest of his day. That was when he was approached by Kakashi. Kakashi sat down beside him. "Who are you?" he asked. Sasuke looked over cautiously. "I'm Sasuke. Don't you recognize me?" Kakashi shook his head. "No, I mean, who is Sasuke? I think there's something you're not telling me." Sasuke looked away. "I don't know what you're talking about." Kakashi waited a moment and then spoke. "You're holding back. You've always been holding back. If I didn't know better, I would think you were stronger than even I am." Sasuke would remain silent before Kakashi continued. "I don't know better, do I?" Sasuke took a deep breath. "What are you trying to get at, Kakashi-sensei?" Kakashi looked back out toward the tree line where Naruto was still training. "You've been displaying abilities and skills that a child shouldn't be able to display. I recall when we were doing the bell test how your body movement suggested someone of higher skill than even Chunin. Your movements, reactions, and intuition were well beyond Jonin level. And just today I watched you intentionally fail for a few hours to make it look like you were still learning. You know what you're doing. It makes me wonder if you're even Sasuke at all." "You can move the kunai from the back of my neck now," Sasuke said. The entire time Kakashi had been talking, he'd been positioning a kunai to the back of Sasuke's neck just in case Sasuke attempted to attack. "I will, when you explain what you are to me." Sasuke looked at the sky with a sigh. "I feel like there are some things human beings shouldn't know, but you know them. Or are you insinuating that you're not human?" Sasuke looked back at Kakashi. "I'm human, but I shouldn't know this information. And I feel as though telling you would only expand the egregious nature of my existence here." "Try me," Kakashi said. "Do you believe in time travel, Kakashi-sensei?" Kakashi thought about it. "It's possible, I think. Are you saying that you are a time traveler?" "Yes," Sasuke said bluntly. "Prove it then," Kakashi said. "If you can prove it, then I'll know it's true." Sasuke shook his head. "It doesn't work that way, Kakashi-sensei. There's a fallacy in what you're asking me to do. I cannot prove I'm from the future. The only thing I could do is give you foreknowledge of events, but even that isn't infallible. That could simply be used to implicate me in negative events and ruining trust. Or even if I told you, there is therefore a possibility it won't happen. I've heard stories of time travelers. When they return from the future, or supposedly return from the future, they bring with them information that then people must wait until a certain time to prove true. But because they're waiting for a spontaneous event to occur, it's no longer a spontaneous event, and thus people begin to wonder if the time traveler is telling the truth. And the future I come from is already an impossibility due to the survival of the Uchiha. Any information I give you now would be outdated and no longer completely accurate due to a butterfly effect." Sasuke's logic was something Kakashi considered greatly. "If that's true then, how can I trust you?" Sasuke thought about it. "I can share with you a personal secret, something that few people outside of my immediate family know. You're the only one besides them to know the truth of my origin and the extent of my abilities." Sasuke removed his eye patch to display his Rinnegan, and then activated his Mangekyo Sharingan. "Choku Tomoe. I have an eternal Mangekyo Sharingan and a Rinnegan. Both of these are something I shouldn't logically have at this point. The Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan is a fusion of my own and Itachi's Mangekyo, yet Itachi still has his eyes. There are two sets of the same eyes running around this timeline. This is all I can use to definitively prove that I'm a time traveler. It's up to you to accept it or not. Let my knowledge and strange dojutsu be my witness." Kakashi looked at them. "Itachi has the Mangekyo Sharingan?" Sasuke then realized it. Itachi would have only awakened the Mangekyo if Shisui had perished. Sasuke looked down. "Damn it, he hasn't awakened it yet." Sasuke looked back. "Well, I'll give you something then." Sasuke pulled out a piece of paper and a pen. He then drew the design of Itachi's Mangekyo Sharingan. If Itachi ever awakens the Mangekyo Sharingan, he will look like this. He gives it to Kakashi. Kakashi looks it over with his own Sharingan. He then looks to Sasuke. Peering into his eyes, he could see into the boy's soul. "Fine, I'll trust you. But how do you plan to deal with the events you already know about?" Sasuke shook his head. "I don't know. Tomorrow we'll meet Zabuza and Haku again. They're dangerous, and Zabuza is a killer to the core, but deep down he truly loves Haku. And deep down, Haku just wants to be loved. He'll do anything to be loved, even if that means compromising his own will by killing. I don't know if I should save them or continue with the timeline. I don't even know if I can save them." Kakashi looked down and nodded. "Whatever happens tomorrow is going to be fine. Don't worry about it. Try your best, but if it fails, then promise me you won't let it affect you." Sasuke nodded. Kakashi stood up and went back inside. Sasuke would follow after a few more moments. The morning after, Sasuke, Sakura, and Kakashi were going to leave. Under Sasuke's request, they left Naruto at the house to sleep. There they waited, and just as stated before, Haku and Zabuza showed up. Sasuke told Kakashi to try his best against Zabuza and to remember that his life came before Zabuza's. Kakashi stated that he already knew this and went to face him. Sasuke would face off against Haku alone, and there he would tell Haku to stand down. The masked boy seemed shocked that Sasuke already knew his name. "Take that mask off, Haku," Sasuke told him. "I want nothing to be between us as we speak." Haku removed his mask. "How do you know my name?" he asked. Sasuke looked at him. Imagine for a moment that as an Uchiha, I can see into the future. Imagine I can see long distances into it with the power of my Sharingan. Sasuke displayed his Mangekyo. Haku listened. Imagine I tell you that today you and your master die. Haku seemed to grow defensive, yet Sasuke remained still. That's not a threat, Haku. It's a warning. I don't want you to die. And how do you know the future? What proof do you have? Sasuke sighed. Unless something has changed, the next technique you plan to use against me is the demonic mirroring ice crystals technique. You'll merge with the mirrors and then throw Senbon at all my Tenketsu in an attempt to kill me, though you would have held back originally, likely only to subdue me. Haku seemed shocked by this. That was actually what he was planning. How do I know you didn't simply read my mind? Does it matter? Sasuke asked. It only means that I know what your attacks will be, meaning there's a good chance you would die. But more than that, it won't be my hand that kills you. It'll be Kakashi's. He'll have Zabuza cornered, and in a last-ditch effort to protect your master, you'll dive in front of his Chidori and die. Your body will be disrespected by Gato, and Zabuza will then turn on Gato and kill him and his henchmen before he himself is killed. I tell you this to convince you to stop walking this path. If you live by the sword, you'll die by the sword as well. It's the only life we've ever known, and there's nowhere for us to go where we won't be hunted. If we give up this life, we die as well, so what hope is there for us then? We're wanted men, and a quick death at your hands will be better than what awaits us in Kiri. Sasuke shook his head. Please don't make me do this. Haku put his mask back on. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. It just has to be this way. Sasuke lifted his eye patch. No, I'm sorry. Sasuke would suddenly use Ameno Tejikara to switch places with Haku's mask, tackling the boy and pressing a kunai to his throat. He pressed it in hard, and with a strong flick, he attempted to kill him as quickly as possible so as to not cause him to feel pain. Kakashi saw this and knew that there was likely no way to save them now, so he began to fight even more viciously against Zabuza. When he got the opening, he utilized Chidori to kill Zabuza. Sasuke stood there, thinking about what he had done. Kakashi would approach him. You did what you had to do, he said. Sasuke nodded. I've done nothing that I should be ashamed of, but that doesn't mean that I don't wish Haku had chosen something else. Kakashi nodded. You did well. It was then that Gato and his men appeared. Gato started to monologue a bit, but Sasuke was having none of it. He simply cast a Matarasu and watched Gato's flaming body jump into the water in a futile effort to smother the flames. Sasuke then used his Susanoo to push the others off the bridge. It was around then that Naruto showed up, witnessing the purple avatar. With the bridge protected and the battle over, Team 7 decided to leave the village. They returned to Konoha, where the Chunin exams were taking place. Kakashi-sensei, a word please, Sasuke said as he pulled him to the side. I need you to get us into the exams, he said. Kakashi was confused. You mean the Chunin exams? Well, it's obvious that you're of the proper skill level, but... Sasuke shook his head. Forget about all that. In the original timeline, you had us participate. A lot of big things occur here. One thing that will happen is the reemergence of Orochimaru. He'll be out for revenge. Originally, in the past timeline, he was here for me, but now that other Uchiha exist, that may be different. Kakashi thought about it. All right, I understand. I'll see what I can do. And so Kakashi would have Team 7 added to the Chunin exams. The first thing that would happen would be the written exam, which Sasuke would be able to ace without cheating. He was, by this time, capable of answering the complex Jonin-level questions without so much as a sweat. Then, when the final question came, he took it without hesitation, knowing that it was a ruse this whole time. Due to this, Team 7 moved on to the second round, which was the Forest of Death. But to Sasuke's surprise, in the middle of the battle, Orochimaru shows up. Sasuke is confused. With so many Uchiha, why would he still care about Sasuke? That was, unless Sasuke remembered that he had the Rinnegan. Was it possible that Orochimaru was here for that? He looked at Orochimaru and noticed that in his head shined 2 Mangekyo Sharingan, pilfered from whatever Uchiha he had previously possessed. This made Orochimaru far more dangerous than he was before. Orochimaru would use his Sharingan to cast Genjutsu on Naruto and Sakura, putting them out. Sasuke was the only one free from the Genjutsu. Now, show it to me, Orochimaru demanded. Show me the legendary dojutsu that only the sage had once possessed. Sasuke sneered. How did you learn about this? Orochimaru smiled. I have eyes and ears everywhere. You can only hide something like this for so long before someone else learns about it. Sasuke begrudgingly removed the patch from his eye, displaying it. I hope you know the fight you just picked. I'm not gonna let you get away with what you plan to do. Orochimaru laughed. Then try and stop me. Both shinobi then disappeared with a body flicker. They could see each other for a short time as their speed slowed. They then began to clash at high speeds. Sasuke launched up into the air, forming hand signs with only one hand, something he'd gotten used to since losing his arm. He would fire a blast of flames down at Orochimaru, who would respond in kind with a blast of water, putting out the flames and threatening Sasuke. Sasuke then quickly switched to wind style and used it to freeze the water, using it to slide back down to the battlefield where he jumped toward a tree before springing off it toward Orochimaru. He would continue to do battle against Orochimaru, pushing him back with each blow from his kunai. "You're truly every bit the firebrand I was told you are," Orochimaru said, "but don't think I don't know of your greatest weakness." Orochimaru disappeared from Sasuke's field of view. Sasuke looked around and rushed toward Orochimaru. He only stopped when he noticed Orochimaru standing there holding Sakura. "You thought you could hide all of your secrets in a journal and that they'd be safe. How cute." Sasuke knew that he had been remiss to put that down there, but he needed somewhere to vent his frustrations. Now, though, they had endangered her, and he wasn't going to let that happen. Gripping his kunai tightly, he would look to Orochimaru. "Put her down, Orochimaru, or you will regret it." Orochimaru laughed. "I don't think..." Suddenly, a blade was in Orochimaru's stomach. Orochimaru looked down to see where Sakura once was. Sasuke was now there. Sasuke gripped Orochimaru's arm and pushed it away from his throat before dragging his blade up, shattering ribs and eviscerating his heart. "For so long, you tried to take the lives of others to stall Judgment Day." He pushed Orochimaru back. "I had hoped to spare you, but you just had to threaten Sakura. Go to your grave knowing your biggest mistake was getting too ambitious for your own good." With Orochimaru dead, Sasuke took the scroll. He then released Sakura and Naruto. They would finish the test where Sasuke would mention that he had killed Orochimaru and told them exactly where the body was left. Sasuke was treated as a hero for this, and he and his team's ascension to Chunin was all but confirmed now. They'd then begin the first round of exhibitions where Sasuke had literally no issue beating his opponent. Things for Naruto went the same, resulting in him beating Kiba, and Sakura experienced the same result as well, with her losing via double KO. Sasuke would comfort her, telling her that she did well and that them killing Orochimaru was what would ensure that they'd make it to Chunin. During the month off, Sasuke saw to it that Naruto would run into Jiraiya. It would also be Sasuke who would make mention of Naruto being the Nine-Tails Jinchuriki, something that would intrigue Jiraiya enough to train with him. Sasuke would train too, trying to stay sharp and see if there was anywhere he could improve. After the month had passed, he went back to the exams. Naruto would defeat Neji and Sasuke would defeat Gaara, who would try to flee. It's at this time that Otogakure launches a revenge attack on Konoha, hoping to kill Hiruzen and destroy the Leaf on behalf of their dead master, but this was not enough to hurt Hiruzen. Hiruzen easily withstood their assault, and Sasuke would travel after Gaara. He would let Naruto take the lead against Gaara in battle and defeat him. Naruto had grown stronger since the end of their training. He had managed to still learn the version 1 cloak, and with it, defeated Gaara. And it was through Naruto's words to Gaara, the same as Sasuke remembered, that Sasuke knew that Gaara would have a change of heart. Team 7 would be officially named Chunin, but by a special request of Sasuke to Kakashi, as well as Kakashi to Hiruzen, he would have Naruto sent away to train with Jiraiya. It was paramount to Sasuke that Naruto grow stronger, and Jiraiya was a keystone to Naruto's growth. Sasuke knew that for the most part, he would know peace for the next couple years, but he planned to continue growing himself until he was sure he had plateaued. Night had come. Sasuke stood outside behind the house. It was clear. He sat by the fire pit. He'd been enjoying his night. He spent his time out here reading the journal he'd written. All this information he'd been gathering, many pages filled with a poet's words toward his love. This was how Orochimaru knew Sasuke's greatest weakness, and as he read through every letter he'd written for his adventure, every hope he would return to his true love, he felt his heart shattering. He knew he couldn't let it remain, or it could prove to be a danger to the real Sakura. To that end, Sasuke made the decision. He tossed the journal into the flames and watched it burn. Then, looking down at his hand, he saw that picture of the future he'd almost had. Himself with his wife and daughter. Turning it around again, he gazed upon the names one final time before finally throwing that into the fire as well. His eyes overflowed with tears as he watched the only connection he had to the time from which he originated burn away to ash. But he steeled himself before casting Amaterasu to ensure that not even ashes remained. At first, the black flames ate at the orange fire itself before consuming it. The black flames gave off no light, only being a slow-moving darkness. They devoured the remnants of that book and whatever was left of the picture. In the distance, Fu watched. "Why did I have to choose the saddest guy to be my test subject? It's like he's allergic to fun," he said before turning and walking away. "Maybe he'll be more fun when Shippuden starts." The training regiment was hard. Sasuke was getting serious with it. For 2.5 years, very few noteworthy events happened. There was your occasional mission, but when Sasuke wasn't out on mission, he was training his hardest. He was adopting a better diet than normal to help further build muscle. Developing his physical self was important, as of all the things he carried over into his new self his physical strength was not one of them. And while he did have both of his arms at this time, he had yet to reach the strength he had when he only had one of them. So he was focusing right now on building muscle. More protein, less fat, and an attempt to try a technique for cycling carbs. This was all an attempt to burn away any useless baby fat that would get in the way and increase muscle size, tone, and quality. In doing so, his physical self became far stronger than it had been at this age, and with that, naturally, came an increase in chakra. He continued to hone his techniques. It wasn't enough to have high chakra reserves, so he began to train in a way to reduce chakra waste to 0. He wanted his reserves to be able to last him for days. If a battle took a week, he wanted to ensure that he had enough chakra to sustain himself and keep him going. Even more if possible. He was setting the bar high. The Sage of Six Paths was stated to have been able to fight against Kaguya for a whole month with his brother's help. Sasuke set the bar that high, aiming for the stars, knowing that he might never reach it, but knowing all the same that getting close was better than going nowhere. And Sasuke was pleased to say that he was showing results. His musculature had increased, not enough to get in the way of his movement or speed, but enough to be well defined. He'd never been in shape like this. It seemed a new lease on life would give you the motivation to do better than you've ever done. You see, Sasuke wasn't of the mind to affect nothing anymore. Was he ever really? Sasuke had always in the back of his mind known that he shouldn't attempt to change anything in the past, lest the future be changed as well. But Sasuke had already changed the past to the point that he didn't know if events could transpire in the same way. It was like a whole new world, a whole new story now, where Sasuke had a rough idea of possible events. But he recognized that they might not be accurate anymore, and that was why he was training. He was going to attempt to power cliff the Akatsuki, and if they were preparing more as well, then at least he'd be close enough in power to them to not get immediately skunked. Currently, Sasuke was standing among the trees in he and Itachi's favorite training ground. They were working on their taijutsu techniques. As Itachi stood there looking at his little brother, he couldn't help but reflect on how much he had changed in the past few years. A growth spurt had left Sasuke's height comparable to Itachi's, and now his training had left him visibly more muscular than even Itachi himself. Itachi always considered himself to be a prodigy, speaking humbly of course, but Sasuke had surpassed everything that Itachi had ever been. Sharingan, Mangekyo, Rinnegan, he had it all. Itachi had only just awakened his Sharingan on mission when one on his team in the Anbu he had been close with died in a skirmish. It wasn't the first time he'd witnessed death. Tenma's death had awakened Itachi's Sharingan. This one, like the last one, was unexpected. Shisui helped Itachi get through it, but it was enough to shake him and enough to awaken his Mangekyo. I apologize that I can't help you achieve the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, Sasuke told him as they both displayed theirs. It would be the least I could do to repay you for giving me mine in my timeline. It's fine, Itachi said. Some things aren't meant to happen, I guess. Sasuke thought about it further before returning to the reason they were standing there. Taijutsu. Ready? Itachi said. Ready, replied Sasuke. A moment later, Itachi and Sasuke disappeared in a flash of light, beginning to clash. Moving so fast as to leave behind a body flicker's afterimage, they required the Sharingan to see how fast they were going. This time, they had agreed not to use their ninjutsu, only taijutsu. To this end, Sasuke tried to offer equality in advantages to Itachi, in that they both agreed to only use their Sharingan. Sasuke could not revert his Rinnegan, but he could turn off the Tomoe. If the Tomoe of his Rinnegan were inactive, then his Rinnegan would function like a natural Rinnegan, which did not have any advanced visual prowess to it, meaning its ability to see speed was limited in the eye to below Sharingan levels of sight, while his actual Sharingan did all the heavy lifting. This technically gave Itachi a bit of an advantage, but not much, as one Sharingan didn't really affect things that much when faced against two. Sasuke would clash fists with Itachi. All the while, from a control room outside of time and space, Fu watched with great interest. Wow, this fight looks like one of the ones from my universe. Fancy techniques and tricks are always fun to use, but sometimes nothing really beats the colliding of extremities and the clashing of bone and sinew. As Itachi and Sasuke fight, they hit the ground and continued striking out, only for Itachi to try some holds on Sasuke. Itachi was a far better grappler than Sasuke, but Sasuke was no slouch. They were keeping the battle strictly taijutsu, so Sasuke didn't know where this technique might fit in, but he tried it anyway. Suddenly, Sasuke's own strength skyrocketed. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. A bit of an aura appeared around him as his skin turned pink. Fu widened his eyes. Wait, was that the Kaioken? He looked through his records, sure he had seen this before. Okay, That's the 8 gates technique. This is the gate of life. It seems that while the Kaioken is designed to multiply your power past what you normally have, this technique is designed to give you all of what you normally have. Fu laughs. Both are power-ups that are hard on the body, but I wonder which is stronger. Kaioken can go up to 100 times, but how far does the 8th gate go? Kaioken x 100 can be survived if trained carefully in it. Makes me wonder what would happen if I had that Rock Lee fellow taught the Kaioken instead of the 8 gates. Fu giggles as he writes that scenario down in his little book. Something interesting, no doubt. Fu continued to watch the battle. With the 3rd gate, Sasuke easily broke free from Itachi's grasp. Sasuke, Itachi said in a slightly upward-sloped judgmental tone. I thought we agreed that we weren't using ninjutsu. Sasuke looked down. This is a taijutsu technique, isn't it? It doesn't transform my chakra, but it does give you an unfair advantage. Is this about beating me or learning? Itachi asked. Sasuke nodded and dropped out of it. Sorry, I won't use it again. Itachi nodded and lowered back down into his fighting stance. At about that time, they got a call. Sasuke and Itachi looked back to see Izumi heading for them. Sasuke walked off to the side to give Itachi and his wife a little space while he took his towel to dry the sweat from himself. Dinner's about ready, Izumi said to Itachi. Itachi gave her a kiss on the cheek. Izumi then looked to Sasuke. Your fiancé's waiting for you, she said. Sasuke nodded and turned to begin to leave. Yes, things had changed in the last 2 years. But after thinking it over, he had decided that he'd marry Sakura again. Since the first one was reversed by unwanted time traveling, he would just go for it once more. By the time he reached the house, he entered and saw Sakura helping set the table. He walked to her and took her hand. There, he looked at the engagement ring he had gotten her before kissing her knuckles. They weren't of the age yet where they could legally marry without the agreement of both parties' parents, and as they sat down, they said the blessing and prepared to eat. They continued to discuss everything that was happening. So, have you heard from Naruto about his training? Sasuke asked. Sakura nodded. He said he's made great strides in his training since we last talked. That's good, Sasuke said. Did you tell him how far I've been going? Sakura nodded. I wanted to be humble with you as to not make him feel bad. Sasuke smiled a bit. The goal is to make him feel bad. He's my rival. We need him to suffer as long as I outpace him so that his only recourse is to surpass me. I want him to surpass me. If he wants to be Hokage, he's got to do that. Sakura smiled. Well, you'll have to tell him yourself. Sasuke looked at her for a moment and then looked back at the calendar. Oh yeah, he's gonna be finished with his training, isn't he? Sakura nodded. His letter said he was coming home in about a week, so probably about the time he gets my letter, he'll be headed back. Sasuke smiled. I'll have to test him. And that's exactly what he did. When Naruto returned, Sasuke tested him. Naruto was shocked to see how strong Sasuke had become. He outpaced Naruto quite a bit, but Naruto had grown enough to show promise that he would eventually catch up. And now that Sasuke was living rent-free in Naruto's head, he could truly take his training seriously. The next events to happen would be coming soon, and Sasuke knew about it. He would eventually visit Hiruzen. You see, Sasuke had been cluing Hiruzen into the truth about where he had come from, what he had seen, and Hiruzen had begun to secretly accept Sasuke's help with mission planning. They would prepare Team Kakashi and Team Guy to go rescue Gaara. However, they wouldn't time it to be actually capable of saving Gaara. Perhaps Sasuke had been selfish in the past, and had not been willing to sacrifice anything for the greater good. But at this point in time, after learning what it meant to be a real shinobi, Sasuke knew that there were certain things that needed to happen, and among those things was the 4th Shinobi World War. The world always sat on the edge of war, but when all sides were united under a single banner against the Akatsuki, that allowed the world to achieve peace for a time, and Sasuke knew that unless that happened, the world would be in danger. Sasuke knew they were forced to choose between the many and the few, as this was the responsibility of a shinobi, to make the hard decisions. It hurt Sasuke's heart, but if people were going to die either way, did it not make more sense that the few should die instead of the many? And that peace should come where no more would die in battle as opposed to the many wars that might occur afterward. With that threat looming over them and the possible futures that could occur if things didn't play out properly, Sasuke made the fateful decision to let the story play out as it had, stopping as many deaths as could be stopped, but sacrificing what was needed to reach the end of the goals. This was something that weighed heavily on his heart, but alas, he had to do it. They would head out to face Sasori and Deidara, discovering that Gaara was dead. Sasuke was sure that he had to kill both Deidara and Sasori here, and if he didn't, things wouldn't flow. Deidara was supposed to be killed by Sasuke while hunting for Itachi, but that wouldn't happen, meaning that Deidara was currently a loose end. Knowing Sakura was not strong enough due to never having trained under Tsunade, Sasuke did the best he could and had Naruto and Kakashi stay behind to fight Sasori while he followed after the escaping Deidara. Having taken his clay bird in an attempt to escape with the body of Gaara, Sasuke would follow on foot until he utilized a Menoteji Kara to switch places with Gaara's body, surprising Deidara. Before Deidara had the chance to do anything, Sasuke would stab him through the back before diving from the clay bird. With a single use of his Amaterasu, he set the clay bird aflame, causing it to explode. Sasuke hit the ground, having retrieved Gaara's body. Returning to the cave, he found that Sasori had been defeated, but it wasn't over yet. They needed to revive Gaara. He was the 5th Kazekage, and it was partially because of his cooperation that the allied shinobi forces got off the ground at all. They needed him. And so, without interfering, Sasuke let Naruto scold Chiyo for what happened, which caused Chiyo's heart to change. She would sacrifice her own life for Gaara's, bringing him back to life. They would proceed to return home and wait. Eventually, it became known that Hidan and Kakuzu were nearby, having collected the bounty on the head of a monk. When Hiruzen gave the orders to hunt down Hidan and Kakuzu, Sasuke asked to be put on Asuma Sarutobi's team, which Hiruzen allowed. As they would search out the Akatsuki members, Sasuke didn't speak or say anything. He tried to downplay his presence as much as possible in hopes of not interrupting Asuma's thought process. Eventually, they found Hidan and Kakuzu. However, without warning, Sasuke used Amaterasu on Hidan. Sasuke knew that Hidan was immortal, but so were the black flames of Amaterasu. Hidan couldn't die, but he couldn't regenerate either. So an attack that burns one to nothingness until not even ashes remain to burn should be enough to overcome his immortality. Hidan panicked and tried to attack them quickly, but Sasuke had them continue to avoid Hidan, telling them that if he touched them with those black flames, they would spread to the group. And while Sasuke could cancel any of the flames, he didn't want anyone being put in danger. As they evaded the flaming cultist further, Sasuke attempted to feed the flames by using Amaterasu on Hidan again. This increased both temperature and spread, which even Hidan couldn't withstand. This marked the ending of Hidan. Kakuzu, seeing this, attempted to escape, but Sasuke would not have it. He used a Menoteji Kara to switch places with Kakuzu's cloak and got close to him. With the powers of his Mangekyo Sharingan, he was able to discern what it was that kept Kakuzu alive for so long, realizing it was his multiple hearts. Knowing he had to deal with him quickly, Sasuke activated the 5th gate to increase his power. He rushed at Kakuzu with speed beyond what Kakuzu was capable of seeing, and proceeded to pummel him. Before Kakuzu could even properly fight back, Sasuke had already perforated each of his many hearts, piercing each of the masks on his body with his blade. Kakuzu fell. This left Team Asuma in shock. They would recognize his powers, as well as his ringed eye, and declare him a user of the Rinnegan, like the Sage of Six Paths. Sasuke would look to them and nod. Indeed, I am a Rinnegan user, but this is a very important secret you'll have to keep. It's a part of a very secret contingency plan that the Hokage has set up. And now that you know about it, you're sworn to secrecy. The Hokage will tell you more later if you have questions. Just know you're not allowed to tell anyone. They all agreed. Returning to the village, Sasuke knew what events would transpire next. They would head for Hiruzen's office to speak with him. I'm sure you've received reports about the location of the Akatsuki's secret base, Sasuke said. However, I would implore you not to send a scout. Why not? Did you know about it? Hiruzen asked. Hiruzen nodded and sat down. Amagakure, correct? Sasuke asked. Hiruzen nodded slowly. So you do know about it. Does that mean you know what happens? I do, Sasuke said. Amagakure is indeed the location of the Akatsuki's secret base. However, the information you would receive from going there is almost nothing, and you lose a valuable shinobi. Hiruzen's eyes widen. Do you mean Jiraiya? Yes, Sasuke said. You would send Jiraiya in an attempt to ascertain the identities of and the plans and location of the Akatsuki, but you would really get nothing besides a weak explanation of Six Paths' power, and I can already give you that. Then instead of sending a scouting mission, why not send an army, Hiruzen asked. Why not end this now? Because I'm not convinced you can end it now, Sasuke said. While we could defeat Pain, the current figurehead of the Akatsuki, its true leader wouldn't even be there. Besides, we're letting them gather the tailed beasts for war to set off a chain reaction within the 5 great villages. We want a war to begin to foster unity. I feel bad about desiring a war, Hiruzen said. I understand, Sasuke said. For a time, I felt that this sort of thinking was everything that was wrong with the shinobi world, and now I'm a part of that system, contributing to it. But we can't waver. I'm trying to make a better future, and while I know I'm probably just doing something very wrong, possibly evil, I know it will work out for the best. I'm simply choosing the lesser of 2 evils. Hiruzen nodded. I understand what that is like. I just can't imagine my legacy pushing us into another world war. This will be the 3rd one under my watch. Sasuke nodded. Sometimes what's most important isn't how people remember us, but what we do when they don't. I learned that from Itachi in my timeline. Sometimes the best course of action seems to vilify us, and even so, what we do is out of love for our village. It's a form of ultimate sacrifice. Not that we died as heroes, but that we heroically died as villains, at least in the eyes of the village. So then, what do we do now? Hiruzen asked, returning to the topic. We wait, Sasuke said. Pain will come to us. He will attack us, and though we hate to see it happen, if he does, we can use that as a reason to initiate a 5 Kage summit, and we can use both the attack and the repelling of the attack as a bargaining tool to put us in charge of the allied shinobi forces. Hiruzen sat there for a moment and listened. You know, Danzo used to talk a lot like that. That struck Sasuke in the heart. Wow, no need to insult me. Hiruzen apologized. I'm sorry, I didn't mean it like that, but now you're speaking as a real Black Ops Shadow Hokage. Sasuke nodded. That's because I have experience as one. In my time, Naruto became Hokage, and I was his supporting shadow, just as Madara was to Hashirama, just as Danzo was to you. The only difference is, I remain steadfastly loyal to the village and my Kage. That you can trust. Hiruzen nodded. If it must be done, then I'll allow it. Sasuke nodded and stood, walking for the door. He stopped for a moment. Also, before I forget, you need to convince the Toad Sages to train Naruto in Sage Mode as soon as possible. He needs to be ready for when Pain arrives. We're going to need as much help as possible. And that's what Hiruzen did. Naruto would be sent to train with the Toad Sages at Mount Myoboku, after which he would be returned to Konoha. And it wasn't a moment too soon. Pain attacked that very day. Together, Naruto and Sasuke faced Pain. Letting Naruto take care of the 6 paths on his own, Sasuke faced the Diva path. I won't let you destroy my village, Sasuke said as he removed his eye patch. Pain had a short look of shock on his face, barely discernible before it returned to his expressionless demeanor. This world only needs one god, he said. Sasuke scoffed. That's hubris. Did you develop it before or after you failed to save Yahiko? Pain stood there silently for a moment. Inside, he was fuming, but he refused to show it. Do not speak as if you know anything, Pain said. I'll speak because I do know everything. I know what it feels like to walk the path of pain and to seek retribution against the world. I know what it is to gain and lose and to gain again. I wouldn't be so conceited as to believe myself that high, especially when I can't save anyone. And you can't save anyone either. You don't even have the means to, so don't let your power go to your head. Diva raised his hand to utilize a Shinra Tensei against Sasuke, but Sasuke responded with the same technique. The clashing forces met in the middle, compressing air before bouncing back against them, causing them to be pushed back by their own attacks. Sasuke pulled his katana and rushed at Pain, who utilized his chakra rods to catch the blade's strikes. Together, as they fought, they began to rise up into the sky, hovering there, Sasuke continuing to strike out at Pain. When Sasuke found himself disarmed from a strike, he was both surprised and impressed with Pain's kenjutsu, but it didn't really change much. Sasuke merely developed a new blade through the use of the Ashura path. You're pretty strong, Sasuke said, but let's face the facts. You've split your power among 6 vessels. Not only are your chakra reserves spread out, but all of the Rinnegan techniques as well. In this, your favorite form, all you can use is the Diva path. For me, I can use that and all the others as well. And let me be honest, I'm not even at my full power right now. Pain looked curiously at Sasuke. Then what is your full power? Suddenly, Sasuke's skin turned pink as his chakra appeared around him mixed with sweat. Pain opened his mouth to speak. Is that the... Suddenly, Pain was already on the ground, having been dragged down more quickly than his Rinnegan could see. Sasuke had him by the ankle. With a single jerk, he pulled Pain over his head and smashed him into the ground. Before Pain could get up, Sasuke put a fist through his back, shattering his spine and any internal organs that might be in the way. Pulling his bloody, bladed fist back from Pain's broken body, Sasuke looked down at him. He then took one of the chakra control rods and used it to sense the location of the real body. Traveling to its location, he easily killed Konan with nothing more than an Amaterasu. And as for Nagato himself, he simply killed him with a blade to the chest. And with that, the battle was over. Sasuke knew he could end the Akatsuki's plans by simply using Amaterasu on Pain's body, burning away his Rinnegan. But he knew that they would be integral to the 4th Shinobi World War, so he opted to have them taken out and secretly locked away. And by secretly, I mean it appeared to be secret, but in truth it was designed to leak a little information and make it easier for them to steal. It was important that the Akatsuki were kept in the dark about Konoha's attempts to help them. After this event, the 5 Kage Summit was called, where Hiruzen would attend with Sasuke's presence. There they would speak of the threat of the Akatsuki, the threat to the world, and they'd basically come right out and ask, so what are we going to do about it? With Gaara on their side, they were able to push for an alliance, and with the reminder that all the villages had, to a point, been attacked by the Akatsuki, the need for vengeance became a great motivator. A shared pain and shared anger toward the enemy would become a unifier, creating a brotherhood between nations. It was from this that Sasuke began to realize that Pain's plot actually had merit, but it wouldn't have worked out the way he thought it would. Pain does indeed unify people, but it's through shared experiences and through the similarities within everyone that makes it work. In the end, it's not just that we're all hurting, but also that we all have something in common. And for the allied shinobi forces, that thing they had in common was an enemy. And through that enemy, Sasuke knew that peace could be attained. This was further agreed upon when Obito appeared to declare the 4th Shinobi World War himself. With that done, the only thing left was to elect a commander-in-chief, and through Sasuke's carefully designed argument that he had presented to Hiruzen beforehand, Hiruzen would be named the supreme leader of the allied shinobi forces. Returning to Konoha, Sasuke informed Hiruzen to send Naruto away. He told Hiruzen that there was an island very important to Naruto's growth as a shinobi, and once he would complete his training, he would then seek to join the war. When he did, Hiruzen would have to allow Naruto to fight, which Hiruzen agreed to. Returning home, Sasuke informed Itachi and Shisui of what was to occur, and they readied themselves for war. Sakura would also be fighting in this war, though Sasuke held fear in his heart. With Hiruzen still alive, Sakura never had a true chance to train under Tsunade, which meant that she hadn't developed much since becoming a Chunin. To a point, he asked her to stay home, telling her that she didn't have to do anything. But Sakura refused and intended to join the war herself. After all, there would be many who would be wounded, and she needed to help them. As the war prepared to begin, Sasuke met with Itachi and Shisui and began to give them a secret mission. He told them that Kabuto, one of Orochimaru's pupils, had taken over for him and was currently using the Edo Tensei to resurrect dead shinobi. He told Itachi and Shisui where they could find him, and told them that all they needed to do was force Kabuto somehow to make the hand signs for freeing the Edo Tensei. He then showed them what those hand signs were and told them to commit it to memory. They accepted the mission. Not long after, they set out searching for where Obito would be. To save lives, Sasuke informed Hiruzen of where Madara would appear and told him not to send forces there as he would eviscerate them. Instead, he gave them forewarning about where the Geto statue would be located. By the time they got there, Itachi and Shisui had completed their mission. All Edo Tensei besides Madara were then sent to rest. That being said, there were no other Kage there to support the group, and so Sasuke had to pick up the slack. By this time, Sasuke was proud to say that he was easily as strong as Madara, being a fair match for him without the Ten Tails. While he fought Madara though, Naruto faced off against Obito, hoping to defeat him here and now before he could make use of the Ten Tails. However, this failed. Obito would retreat and take for himself the Ten Tails, and after this, Madara would disengage from Sasuke to support Obito for a time. Naruto and Sasuke would meet up together and devise a plan to use the majestic armor Susanoo against Obito, outfitting Kurama with it. With the infusion of Six Paths chakra, the attacks of Kurama were capable of harming Obito. They would eventually succeed in ripping the Ten Tails from him. Sasuke would have known that Naruto did talk to him. Sasuke wasn't present in that conversation, after all he wasn't a Jinchuriki, but he knew that it would work on Obito, pulling him back to the light. It pained Sasuke that he would still be forced to kill Obito, however. That being said, the fate of the world was at stake, and so it was better that they defeat Kaguya now before she could awaken. And so, as Obito was planning to utilize his Rinnegan to restore the lives lost due to his actions, Zetsu attached itself to Obito. Sasuke knew that this was his chance. Zetsu was the one responsible for reviving Kaguya. It was he who was the key to reviving Kaguya's ego within the Ten Tails, and without him, she would always be incomplete. So the moment Zetsu took over Obito to force him to revive Madara, Sasuke unleashed the most powerful Amaterasu onto both Zetsu and Obito, being sure to destroy Obito's Mangekyo in the process. In that way, he knew that Zetsu couldn't use it against them. With Zetsu destroyed, the only one left to defeat was Edo Tensei Madara. Each of the tailed beasts offered Naruto a portion of their power, which in turn granted him access to Six Paths Sage Mode. Together, the two of them fought against Madara, and would manage to seal him up using Six Paths Chibaku Tensei, sending him out into space to drift away forever like a rogue planet. And with that done, the war came to an end. Just as Sasuke had thought, the world returned to peace, with only a select few realizing that Konoha had manipulated events in their favor. But this wasn't the end yet. Sasuke knew that Toneri Otsutsuki would soon attack the Earth from the moon, and so Sasuke would remain in the village to defend it. The moment the threat arose, Sasuke told Hiruzen all about it. However, Sasuke knew that he was not required to beat Toneri. That was Naruto's domain. Naruto could and would do it, saving Hinata, discovering his true love, and proving himself worthy of the title. Due to Sasuke's recommendation, Hiruzen decided to retire and would name Naruto as the next Hokage, the 5th. There was a difference there, as Naruto had originally been the 7th. However, since Hiruzen had never perished, and since Tsunade and Kakashi had not been named such, Naruto would be number 5 instead. This was poetic to Sasuke, as it simply moved Naruto's head on the monument closer to his father. But with all of this said and done, and both parties of legal age now, Sasuke would marry Sakura. And when the time came, they would conceive. This would lead to the birth of Sarada, who Sasuke had yet to actually meet. Yet now he was finally getting his chance. So many years of waiting, such a long journey. Finally, Sasuke was home, and he was pleased. Fu was pleased too. "I knew you'd get there," he said as he watched Sasuke's story. Standing up though, he began to walk back. Having seen the conclusion of this experiment, Fu was overjoyed with himself. Not just because he got to view a new timeline, but because there were spoils. Yes, Fu got the leftovers. As he walked down the hall, he passed into his laboratory. There were many things there that he'd collected from this world. From manuscripts on chakra, sage mode, and various ninjutsu to even one timeline's remains of Shibai. But right now in his hand he carried a small bag. Something that had been lost to Konoha by the hand of the Akatsuki and never found. As Obito had implanted in his head one of Pain's Rinnegan, he had left the other in his secret base for fear that the excess power might drive him crazy. But now, Fu was holding onto that Rinnegan. Putting it into a safe place, he began to wonder what he could do with all of it. Of course, he didn't personally need a Rinnegan, but it could be a great tool with which to make a new scenario. And now Fu wondered what he would do with it. He smiled. "I wonder what would happen if I gave this to someone in the Dragon Ball universe." And that's where our story ends for today. With Fu's newfound interest in the Naruto world, things are getting interesting. Now that he's introduced the concept of fusion to the Naruto world, I assume the only logical step is to include the Rinnegan in Dragon Ball somehow. But who should we give this Rinnegan to? I could always do Goku, or even Vegeta, but there are plenty of others we could give it to as well, including Gohan and future Trunks. I'll have to think about it. There are plenty of Dragon Ball what-ifs I'd eventually like to do, some of which include Naruto elements, and even a few that are just pure Dragon Ball. One I'm particularly hoping to try is what if Gohan were the legendary Super Saiyan? I'd love to try something like that in the future. But anyway, regardless of that, what did you think about this video? Did you like it? If so, tell us all about it in the comments, along with other ideas you might like to see us tackle. Be sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to be notified of other videos like these as they drop, and if you're still hungry for more, try out one of these videos on the screen. I'm sure you'll like them. Anyway, until next time, peace out.